something, shall I hold on to this? And
yes, you can keep that. That's for your notes.
Yeah, actually.
And can I ask you before we begin, what exactly is the purpose of this consultation now, as far as I'm concerned?
Oh, that's a good point. What were you hoping with this consultation?
Well, I've been finding it very difficult to get allocated to therapy.
So therapy was the main thing?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. I think that probably was made very clear last time. You did say that.
By me. What about from my doctor's perspective? Was it made apparent from his perspective?
I wouldn't go back into those old records now because of the limited time we have.
Yes.
Let's focus on where we left and then what we could do now. Yeah?
Okay. Would this be our final consultation?
This will be to help put it all together for us.
Okay. Would there be any more?
This is mainly around completing the assessment part.
Yeah.
And then also I could pick a few things from this letter about autism and other aspects.
Yeah.
So hopefully if we could put it all together and come to a conclusion, we can.
Yeah, so of course my reservation and source of anxiety is that we need to concentrate on those highlighted because they're the issues that I'm dealing with. The shooting episode in Africa, of course, has affected me profoundly, but that was an adult thing. Those all stem from a very young age. The things, of course, the one thing I could pick the headlines here. Yeah. So how loss of mum has affected you as a child. And then OCD, and then autism, reclusive and social over 12 years, things that can make things worse for you. Yeah? Yes. And so the things that can make things worse is a very big deal because being unemployed, being subject to scrutiny and often sort of bullying tactics with the DWP, they're always threatening. If you don't do this and if you don't do that, then we're going to do that. It's all threatening. I don't subscribe to being threatened, particularly as being a person with several conditions that they're not recognising. It's tedious, it's annoying, it's destabilising, and also, in my estimation, it brings about psychosomatic illnesses, which I've mentioned down there, because every time they put the pressure onto me and they're calling me in to go in, and I get anxious, frustrated, that there's a feeling that comes over me and I can't cope, and then miraculously I get my herpes comes back and my back problem comes back.
Yeah, no, that's very well articulated about how it all links, and the pressure and the psychosomatic symptoms, and then the already present chronic conditions getting worse, and the anxiety, frustration. Okay. So last time when I spoke to, the thing that stood out for me at the present time was social anxiety. When I look back, I know it was a very difficult childhood being on your own. And then there came a time where you were able to run your own sort of company for 10 years or long, very sort of successful in your work and field. Yeah. And then we had this major incident that sort of stopped us. It took a long while for you to recuperate from it. I guess that time you were feeling low and having nightmares, and you focused on the things that were helping you recover. It has helped you to some extent, but I think what has been very clear since then to now is the social anxiety. Yeah?
Yes, and so you all recall from our first consultation when you asked me if I was depressed. Well, I had an unconscious reaction to that. That one even took me by surprise. I'd never had that reaction before considering it, albeit I've been stating to my doctor for years now that I've had existential crisis going on for a long time. That's not their department. They sent me to vitamins, and eventually, because of my persistence, I'm here now. If I wasn't persistent, doctor, then they would have nothing else more to do with me, and this is a great deficit within the national health. People less determined than me wouldn't be getting assistance.
I see what you mean. When we say Vital Minds, they did an initial assessment,
Yes.
didn't they? So I'll just bring that up as well. It will help to tie up with what we have been thinking about. Yeah. Okay. 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 There are two ways, two aspects to look at. Maybe we could talk about these quickly then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with regards to the autism, okay.
See, due to the complexity of autism and the broad spectrum of those conditions which pertain to it, I most certainly fit into that realm. And it was a great surprise to me, in actual fact, in recent times, to realise that I am actually one of those people that I thought was people out there.
When we say autism, what of the autism do you think?
Well, the narrow parameters of concentration, the obsession with the concentration. Every single one of my days and nights is consumed with the acquisition of knowledge. There seems to be some sort of an anxiety maybe at the root of it.
This acquisition of knowledge, this is again from the time when you had this major trauma, isn't it?
Predominantly, but looking back, I think it was always there. I began to read the Bible when I was 28, and then spiritualism and all that.
I think because when we talk about this obsessive acquisition of knowledge, what was driving us at the time is lack of trust in other people and not to be fooled again. And it's kind of more kind of a protective thing for us. If I say, I think autism mainly is around something that you pick up from a childhood times. It's a developmental disorder. So it's
Having said that, research that I've been looking at states that more and more men over the age of 50 are acquiring symptoms of autism.
I probably can't comment on what's out there, but I think with the autism spectrum disorders, it's a developmental disorder. So you would see the signs and symptoms from the time of your child, and that affects in few areas of life. So it could affect in social area of life. It affects in communication.
Well, I mean, from the mother's death, then I was a lonely child. I never had any friends. I got expelled from every single school I went to. I couldn't deal with authority. I didn't want to be governed and pressed and told what I was supposed to do.
And that fits, as you said, more around loss of mum and being left alone. Autism is something that cannot in the lifetime be introduced into someone. It is a developmental disorder. The things would have started off before to birth or during the birth or just immediately after birth. So it sets off a process.
So how can we discern then whether I actually had autism or not at the time of my birth?
We would see some signs and symptoms of autism. So, for example, making an eye contact.
Right, that level of physicality.
So that completely.
Because today, Doctor, things are getting very, very broad, and you can go onto the internet, and of course you can get so much contradictory information about absolutely everything. And I can listen to specialist psychiatrists like you, and they would have a different opinion about the same thing. And from what I've gathered, it states in these medical reviews that I've been reading, that autism is down to the individual analysis to discern. And so your analysis may suggest that I'm not, whereas another analysis may suggest that I am.
I mean, we could spend a lot of time with regards to the different arguments. With the autism, the things that will be very prominent would be the communication barriers. So people are social.
That's the only one, incidentally, I don't tick.
Yeah, so that's one. And the other thing is the physical sort of presentation of it, where there is an eye-to-eye contact and understanding other people's perspective and picking up on their subtle other signs rather than language itself.
Right.
So those kind of all things you would see in the person at present as well as over the long period of time.
Right.
So that's the reason. I do think that there is an element of obsessive compulsive personality where what people tend to do is, I don't say it's a disorder, it's sometimes people have this where they to have this sense of control, they obsessively try and be very thorough. So it could be that they, for example, someone who might spend 3 hours to finish a task, they might spend 6 hours looking at every little detail of it. And it could be present someone's throughout life, and that's how they have dealt with having to be very thorough, very prepared, spend lots of time on that preparation.
Yeah.
What certainly I could see here is the preparation and not to be fooled or
taken advantage of,
or mistrust. It
manipulated.
Yes, it seems to have to get that sense of control. We have developed into this state where we do very thorough sort of look into any area of work that we are.
And I you see, we can speculate that these sort of character traits are
absolutely
pertaining to the DSM manual. These days, the pharmaceutical companies, they ask yourselves at meetings the latest information of what you consider is new, and they very quickly want to capitalise that, labelling it and make money from it. And that's all they're about. And so I'm very sure since the advent of the DSM in the 80s, now it's absolutely massive, and it will grow exponentially because they are looking for reasons to prescribe medications.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's not that I don't disagree. I think there are risks. It could be utilised in the wrong way. Can be given diagnosis and then so what we're talking about is there is this element of obsessiveness towards gathering information.
It's took up all my life for the past 12 years, predominantly.
To have that self-control, sense of control, that's one, that is significant. The second thing is the social anxiety. There are ways to address the social anxiety where you work with a therapist with an increasing how can I put this, challenges of facing social situations and managing anxiety symptoms in those situations to make it more comfortable to be in going forward. So that kind of social anxiety work can be done, but it's very specific around looking and helping us acclimatize in the social situation and addressing anxiety in those situations. That's the second.
One of the points that is mentioned in autism, that people often feel like they are aliens. And I mentioned to my doctor about 3 years ago that I feel very much an alien because I find very, very few people in my life who I can communicate with. because of the individuated worlds which they are living in, very, very diverse from mine. They're all automated, all programmed, very unintelligent, the vast majority of them, and if you start speaking about anything that isn't on the telly, then there's no going forward at all.
Yeah.
And so that's where I am now.
Yeah.
I need people to be vastly educated and
I think we all have our bars, don't we, like the level where we feel comfortable and appreciate other person's sort of sharing. But again, this is it's a bar which is set by the individual himself. But if you think that that is sometimes causing barriers in establishing relationships, then we probably may have to consider thinking, okay, this is not working for me. Maybe I have a fresh look at it to see everyone's different, to what extent is acceptable for me, and then it will be the vice versa as well for them towards me as well.
Yes.
So these are the fine-tuning we do as we progress in our life, whether it's a feedback from others or whether it's a feedback within our self-reflection. We do those fine-tunings, but this is something maybe worth thinking about, I think.
Oh, well, I've thought about it forever, and of course this is why I'm pushing for psychotherapy, so I can consult with educated people in these realms which may shed a light on things that I haven't hitherto been aware of. I.e. some sort of the revelation that I may fit into the autism spectrum for lots of reasons, and so all my life I've been thinking about these people which were labelled as such look like a certain way and they act like a certain way, but these days everything's becoming very, very grey and not so black and white. And so what I'm finding, to be quite frank, as I go forward in my life and I educate myself in a certain way, that there is in actual fact no reality here at all. It's all a fiction, it's all a projection of consciousness. This is very existential, it's very, very deep and complex.
Yeah, I think one other thing we probably have to appreciate is everyone is different. And everyone carries their own set of beliefs and has opinions about things. And in psychiatry we don't opine or frame, put people into boxes saying, okay, this is away from normalcy. And
but the DSM does that very well.
Yeah, we don't, and we don't have to follow all the way, of course. So we don't label people that they are not in normal stream, so this is a disorder.
Right.
Everyone is different and everyone has their own personality. There are we know everyone's personality has its own ups and downs. It's about how a person copes with the downs and keep up with the ups. So yes, I think a lot of it is, how we view our world may be different to what other people view the world as and what their priorities is. And if we are wanting to form that connection with the others, then we need to meet up, isn't it?
Yes.
At some level. So it's about giving a bit and taking a bit.
Exactly. And so this is why I'm very willing to engage with some level of therapy in relation to this. One of the underlying problems I have now as being a 59-year-old person which has been independent all of his life, running his own businesses with no written qualifications. Yeah. Now the steam and desire has dissipated completely from ever doing anything out in the matrixial world, because my day and night is consumed absolutely, like I said before, by the natural world. I have walks to and from the gym, and it will take me 4 or 5 hours to do these because I have to look at all of the trees and bushes on every single part of my journey, because I'm absolutely enthralled and engaged with the miracle of life. And then when the government tried to take me away from that and tell me by now you should be doing a driving job or packing in a warehouse, well, my head's gone at that, Doctor.
Oh no, I appreciate it's very eloquently put together to how you're doing things, to how the stress can influence you.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I'm picking about, as we spoke earlier, is about the obsessionality around knowledge gaining. And what I'm also now maybe looking at a bit around the amount of time we may spend when we go out looking at different things. You probably weren't doing that before, and this is much more of thing now.
It's increasingly becoming to the point whereby I'm not in this world, you know. I'm in some sort of God consciousness world, just aghast at what I see and how it works, and then of course that fuels questions and the metaphysical questions, and it goes until my head's full of all this stuff, and you know, then when I receive commands from the DWP, and they want to phone me up every 2 weeks and go, so how's it going? I'm like, ask my psychiatrist, ask my doctor, why are you asking me?
So if we sort of review it, Aaron, what I'm sort of now want to ask you is, I know you're not feeling very overwhelmed, and this has been going for some time. And what would you like? If we think about a change, what would you like yourself to be doing?
I made mention in that there that I would very much like work in some sort of forestry commission or something, where, because I have a great connection with trees, I like being around them and I like being alone around them. So if I can incorporate that into earning a living, then I would be desirous towards that, to get me out again, to stop me from being a recluse and a loner, you know, because I realise that I've got conditions and it's not necessarily healthy.
Okay, so those are two important points. So get you out again, reclusive and loner, and it seems like that stems from the anxiety and the social anxiety aspect. Okay, that kind of therapy work could be done over sort of a number of sessions to address it. That's one. The second thing is there is also a drug called pregabalin that seems to have worked particularly well for social anxiety. Have a look about it, and then see. I mean, my suggestion sometimes is to try it. If it works and you find it helpful, it's up to you. If you don't, if you whether want to continue or not, if you tried and it's not found to be helpful,
what is it?
We can stop it. Pregabalin.
A medication?
Yes.
I won't take it.
That's just one thought to think about.
The whole social anxiety thing, it's very complex, and it's not necessarily that I am inhibited or afraid of anything. Quite au contraire, very autistic. That when I engage with people, I overwhelmingly, instantly, I'm just analysing everybody and everything I see. I'm just on a reconnaissance mission. I'm gathering data, and as soon as I start to speak with people, then that's the way I'm looking at them. I can't not look at them from any other realm. That is a problem for the vast majority of people. They find it intrusive, they find it intimidating, they don't know what you're speaking about because nobody's ever looked at themselves, of course, and so then that alienates me, because all of a sudden, you know, when you see people, oh, it's him again, and they look away, or, you know.
So does it sound a bit familiar where what we were doing about spirituality, philosophy and religious things in the obsessive way, overanalyzing and overthinking, that seems to be happening in the social sort of context.
Yeah, that's why I can't enter into it.
And so it helps to a certain extent knowing and having knowledge about things, but if it becomes to a point where it's actually
become a deficit,
it becomes a problem on its own.
Yeah.
And that seems to be happening in the relationship, because, as you said, very eloquently intrusive and intimidating. And that's not what we are trying to get from a social contact.
No.
It's more around sharing and having very light-hearted
Being
talk.
open and considerate, and accepting people's failings, you know, and of course we're all flawed, and all these sort of things. And so one of the realms in therapy could be that.
So,
but I'm waiting now, as I mentioned in there also, that I have a health assessment by the DWP, and I'm told that I could wait over a year. It's been the best part of a year now, and they are going to be looking for something that they can accept. And so, would you be able to write anything down which they would accept as to why they stopped bothering me? Because at this moment in time, I feel that I am absolutely not capable of doing any of the things that they think that would be appropriate for somebody with no written qualifications, with no curriculum vitae, with no track record. So they want to force me into warehouse job or driving job, and I could never contemplate doing that for a million years, because from the moment I wake up, I pick up my book and I'm on the pursuit of knowledge. Then I'm on the internet, and then when I go to the gym, because it's part of my compulsion, I've been going for 45 years, then I have to do it. It's something that I have to do. And then of course on the nature trails, then I'm absolutely lost. I wonder how anybody could, I've got no idea how people can live a fulfilling life and have a job. Albeit I used to do it. Doctor, I used to do it, and I used to think that I was fulfilled, grabbing, mechanically, obsessively.
I think I could see that. I know that there was this time where you were working quite a lot of hours, and then there's this time where there are other things that interest you other than work, and they can also consume your whole day.
The whole shooting incident just made that seem superfluous and pointless. And now I've realised, as a self-realised shard of God consciousness, that it is just not the way forward.
It's life-changing even.
Yes, and you see, I also realise, Doctor, that you know the whole world is under the hypnosis and the indoctrination of big business and governments, more so by each passing day. Governments no longer have jurisdiction over the world. It's the autocrats that have it, the billionaires, trillionaires, the hidden hands. They're the ones that are guiding us, manipulating us into their new world, and I don't want to be a part of that.
I see your thoughts about that, and I understand where you're coming from. So the few things we talked about today, to summarise, is there is definitely social anxiety, and that seems to be stemming up from this obsessive approach towards acquisition of knowledge, or to an extent of being intrusive and intimidated in relationship that's been affecting. The third thing is, I appreciate that you would want to work, but not at this present time. Okay. With regards to social anxiety, what I'll do is I'll probably speak to our team psychologist, Aaron, now that we have put it together, to try and summarise some of the most important difficulties, and then we'll get back to you. Yeah.
So what about the OCD? Because all through my day there's a meticulous attention to detail.
Yeah, that is more of, I wouldn't say it as an obsessive compulsive disorder, it's more of, everyone has their own sort of way of thinking and engaging, and to what point they go to. So in obsessive compulsive personalities, what we see is there is this obsessive approach to the things that they do have to be very detailed and very, very thorough, otherwise it's not good enough.
Yes.
So that's part of personality a little bit, rather than I would say obsessive compulsive disorder.
But if it is, you see...
And that's interfering with your functioning.
The people who make these labels are big business driven, government driven, and so they either have to stand by their stipulation and criteria, or they don't. Now, when somebody comes to see you and you consider that this patient would benefit from medication because they're not articulate, they can't reason things through and they can't work it out themselves, there's no other way, so you go, well, this is going to ease your symptoms, take this. You're reading from their script. Now, what I'm saying here in this particular instance, that the part of one arm of their jurisdiction and governance is the government, which is bullying and pressing me. So I need them to know that, okay, if they write all these symptoms out and conditions for everybody, they want to label everybody with, then they better recognise it. Now,
I think what I'm trying to say, I understand that you worry about different diagnoses, different labels, people are encouraged to put to label as. When I agree with what I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying, Aaron, is there are a few difficulties we found is social anxiety, obsessive kind of an approach towards things in general that is coming in your way or functioning. And the third thing is you were functioning very well before, and we need to look at how we can get back to it. Yeah? Okay. So let me run this by our psychologist and see what might be the best way to approach it. Yeah?
Okay, and so what salient terminology will you be putting on your report, which is going to be received by my doctor, which is going to be privy by the DWP?
I think what we're going to say is that at present there are suggestions, and there is symptoms suggestive of social anxiety. The second thing is there has been a significant change in how you relate with yourself and outside world following the major trauma several years ago, and at present time we feel stuck because there is an obsessive approach and nature about doing things which is interfering with your functioning. Yeah.
Okay, and so when you speak with a psychologist, if they look at the social anxiety, what about the other legs of things? What about the abandonment issues?
This is, I'm afraid, this is something that they wouldn't touch upon in a great detail,
right,
because then we will be looking at more than half of the general population.
Yes.
And this is something that they would say, okay, you were functioning very well in your adult life, middle adult life, we've come here and we're stuck. We need to take you back to your middle adult life where you were functioning.
Yeah.
And what has changed from then to now?
Yes.
We need to help with that.
Exactly.
That's one. And the second thing is anything that has come before to that is something that you could then think about in the future, where you want to explore those things from.
Yes.
Whether you want to do it privately or through charity and things like that. Everyone, if they have time, they would want to explore their developmental
Well,
years.
it's an institution in America. Am I to assume now that I will be getting allocated the therapy?
I would be speaking to the therapist to see what it may be the best course of action from here, because we've done the assessment, we tried to put it together, and we know what the difficulties are. Now we take it to the therapist and see what they advise us.
Yes, and so with the therapist, I mean, to look at social anxiety, that's a very basic thing in all due respect. If at all possible, if there's a choice which you have, anybody who is versed in Jungian psychology would be very beneficial to me, because that's more expansive in relation to spirit as well as just the body. You know?
Okay. Okay. Let me speak to the psychologist and then also share what you've said in the end. It would be entirely up to the psychologist in terms of saying, okay, what aspects we can help with, what is realistically possible, what can't be done, what can be done. And I'll communicate that with you.
Okay, brilliant.
Great.
So then, just to summarise myself, basically what we've finalised now is that I was functioning before, I'm hoping to be functional again, and this is the avenue now to help me to be able to do that. And so if that also could be written on the report for the DWP, then they could see that, and then maybe they could, you know, get off my case and realise, you know, the state of my so-called condition. Thank you.